Well, hello everyone. It's quite a bit of a rainstorm going on outside, so I apologize for any weird background noise you might be experiencing, but I got to get this done so I can get the video out. So, my name is Bob, by the way, and I'm renovating this 1973 Egg Harbor Sportfish boat. If you're new to the channel or one of my videos, do it in my spare time and nights and weekends, so it's kind of a slow, steady pace, and it's not really intended to be a how-to video channel. It's just me working on a boat and sharing it with anybody that's interested. So hopefully you're interested and you stick around and watch the videos. But in this episode, I'm going to be working in the cockpit on what I call side panels, and these are larger side panels. The last two episodes I worked on the small ones. There's 4 panels total back there, and now I'm going to start working on the larger ones. I'm not going to finish them in this episode, but I'll get pretty far along, and far enough along that I can do an initial fit on them. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you at the end of the video. Alright, so hopefully we get something done today. I haven't worked on anything in about a week. The last thing I did was last weekend. I made these templates for the panels that cover the sides of the hull in the cockpit. So they're pretty big pieces, about 7 feet long. I had all intentions of actually filming making these, but when I was over there doing it, it was 13 degrees Fahrenheit, and yeah, the filming wasn't happening. I actually had to come home, grab another heater and some warmer clothes because I was freezing over there. But you saw me do the ones in the front, the smaller ones, so it wasn't much different. Didn't put any. This down here is the bottom. I didn't put anything on the top because all I needed was the 2 ends, and the top's just going to be a straight cut, so I didn't have to do anything there. Alright, so we've got the one of them on the piece of plywood, and I'll bring you in here and show you a little bit more about what I have to do here on it, but it's the same 3/8 plywood I used for the other pieces I made already, the smaller ones, just bigger. So here we're looking at the end that's going to go up against the panel I already made. It's got a little bit of a angle here on it, as you can see, because this is square cut. So I just have to cut that off, but that's just a straight cut. There's nothing fancy about it. Okay, so what you're looking at, this is the port side piece. So this actually goes up against the transom right here. That's why it's kicked back like this. And then this little notch right here is the base trim that's already kind of installed, you know, not permanently but temporarily installed on the transom right now. So I have to kind of notch around that. So when I cut this edge right here, it has to be beveled, I want to say, in this way to match the curve of the transom that's curving this way. So I did capture that bevel with this bevel, one for the port and one for the starboard side. But I put them in my toolbox, and I was searching for a tool the other day in a rush and frustration, and I just kicked these around and they got all knocked off the bevel. They're supposed to be like this. They were sitting in there like that. So when I got the bevel, I actually transferred it onto this just in a random spot on this piece of wood, just so I could capture it again if I had to, like I actually had to. So anyways, it's a good idea to do that, because I've messed them up many times, and then I finally realized maybe you want to put this, even if it's on this or a scrap piece of wood or whatever. And yeah, so I can recapture my bevel, and we can get going with this. That's the bevel I have to cut, so I'm going to have to make a line on this side right along there. And then when I set I'm just going to use my, I think I'm just going to use my jigsaw. So I got my little jigsaw set to the bevel. Got it set. You just got to remember what direction you're going in, because if I did it the other way, I'd be backwards. The bevel would be the other way. bringing it over there. This goes on the back side and clips the panel down in place. You'll see all that later. Not going to worry about this today. So I'll be cutting this into little chunks and placing them along the back after I actually fiberglass it. But I was going to show you this other thing too. These pieces here are going to go, let me move down, I don't go over this on the boat, but they're going to be behind, these are going to be attached to the actual transom. Same pieces I attached to the main bulkhead for the smaller piece of the smaller panel. And they're going to go, behind this. This will be screwed into it up here. Probably just one screw at the top. But I want a piece along the whole length because it's going to be the backing for the whole panel. So what I need to do on these is cut them the length, a rough length. Now this just plopped right in like it is here. It did fit in here. Bottom's got a little bit of a gap on this end over here. I'm going to have to work on that to get it to drop down a little bit. One thing I did though on this panel is when I cut the back part here on the top, I had 2 marks on there and I thought I picked the right one, but now I remember why I had 2 marks on there. I picked the lower one by mistake, and the panel's not quite as high as I'd like it back here. I mean, it's probably fine, but the other panel's cut the way it should be cut, or the way I intended it to be cut, and this one's a little short over on this end. So I'm debating whether to cut the whole thing a little bit lower, or add a little strip to this with epoxy, and then recutting it. It's all going to be fiberglassed over, so I could do that. That's probably what I'm going to do, which is kind of a bummer though. But I was going to fiberglass these tomorrow, but I couldn't get the epoxy for fiberglassing anyway, so I got to do something. So maybe I'll put that strip on there. Alright, so now we're on the other side here, port side. This one's sticking up pretty high all the way. That's because it's kind of long, and it's getting hung up in the back here on this. I got to trim kind of around this piece of base trim. I got to go a little higher with it to drop it down. The height on the top of this is good. It's where it should be. So, and it's a bummer on that side, but what are you going to do? So anyways, I'll fit these. Probably not going to film messing around with these because it's just going to be fiddling around. In and out, sanding, trimming, doing things like that. But in the end, hopefully we get something that fits today and we can get home and do something else. So I'm going to give a little bit of a progress update here. These are the panels. I fit these at the boat. It was a little tedious to fit them, so I didn't film that part of it. But I got it done. I beat the snowstorm, so that was good. You can see the problem in front of me here in my fix for it. But when I made my template, I made a mark up here, I made a mark down there of how high to cut it, how long I wanted it in this direction. And I had 2 marks on this side for some reason. I had one that said cut, and then I had one above it. So when I put the template on, I said, oh, that's cut. I marked it, and then I cut it. Problem was that didn't really mean to cut there. I remembered once I tried fitting it in that was for cutting something else. If you're rushing when you're doing it and you set something aside for a while, you're gonna forget what you did if you're not really clear in your notes. And I found that out here. Those templates just sat there for a week, but in that week, with everything going on, work and everything else, the boat stuff, forgot what it meant. I just assumed. So anyways, my assumption caused me to have to do a little fix here. And so what I did was just took another piece of a little strip, like a 1-inch wide strip of the same plywood, and I just epoxied it to the edge here. And I had it all clamped together and everything, but I didn't film any of that. I don't know, I just didn't film it. But sat for a couple days, pulled the clamps off, and now this is how it looks. So what I have to do now is I marked on here 5/8 of an inch from this point up is where that line has to be. So I'll mark that and recut this. I mean, it's all pretty good to about here, actually. I just added extra just in case. So these are a work in progress. These are the, I want to call them cleats. They go on the transom, and those panels actually attach to these. They're cut long, and I fiberglassed them, just mixed up some fairing compound and kind of filled in all the little pits and everything that I could notice. Alright, so it is Saturday morning. I've been working on stuff all week to get it ready for today, and I'm still not ready. I don't know, I just having a hard time this week. Been working on these pieces here. Now these pieces go up against the transom, and the panels I was working on go up against them. So I've been trying to epoxy these all week. I've had troubles with air bubbles coming in just because I'm trying to rush it along with these heaters over here, and so I've had to keep putting epoxy on. I actually had to fill these with some fairing compound one night because I was getting tired of it. But I think I'm finally there. I put a couple coats of epoxy on this surface here, which this side goes up against the transom. This is where the screws will go in to hold it to the transom. So I wanted to get this done, but I gotta sand it. It's all drippy and crappy right now. But I finally think I got a handle on these. The other thing I have to do to these too, before I can fit them, is down on the bottom here. I have to cut a little notch like I did on the ones on the main bulkhead that I put on. This is a piece of the curving that these go kind of up against like this. So right down in this corner here, I have to notch around this rounded surface. So this sits down in a little bit and it's flush with this face of it. So anyways, I'm just gonna, when I did these on the main bulkhead, I used my drill and a Forstner bit, if you saw that part of it. On this one I can't really do that. I mean, I can do it, but I'd have to set up some kind of fancy jig or something. So I think what I'm going to do instead is just put a rounded bit in my router table and just run this along there until it's good enough to go around this. Doesn't have to be that perfect. I found that out when I did the main bulkhead. This is going to be, as long as it's flush when I install it, it's all going to be filled with epoxy and sanded and blended in. So I have to do that before I can bring these over there. The panels, I've been working on these. I added the extra edge to this one here on the starboard side. I haven't cut this off. I cut it off a little bit on the end over there, but I want to go to the boat and actually fit it and make sure it's going to be cut in the right spot because I don't want to screw it up twice. So I'll bring those over there, fit those with these. Okay, so there's a heater running in the background because it's about 20 something degrees in here, so I'll try to speak up a little. But this is the starboard side panel fitting in. This is the one I had to add extra little bit on the top, and you can see why I said you're not going to even see the top. But what I did was I fit it in, and I'll show you up underneath what I had to do to mark it so I can actually cut it. And I'll be doing the same thing to the port side one here in a minute. Alright, so now we're up underneath. You can see the transom on the right here. And you can see where I added that extra 1 inch of plywood. And you can see why I cut it there. It's right at the top of the transom panel. So there's a lesson to mark your templates well. Okay, so after struggling for 5 minutes to get this panel removed, you can kind of see the top now. You can see the marks where I marked it. Where I have to cut it just above these marks. Now I left this little line here. I was going to leave this higher, but I'm not going to. That was one of the reasons why it was difficult to get out. Alright, so I was trying to fit this in, and I was having trouble with it kind of rocking. You can see right here that there's a gap. It should be over here like this. And I was thinking, oh man, I just cut the wrong angle on the bottom here. But really what it is in this corner there's actually a fillet right around this curve here. There's a fillet right there. And the back of this piece is actually hitting on that fillet. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this little rasp round wood file here and just file that corner out there, and hopefully that'll do it. There we go. Now it's sitting flat on the transom and there's no gap on the bottom, so I'm going to call that pretty good right there. Okay, so unfortunately we're going to have to resort to update mode here because the camera battery doesn't like the cold weather. It looks like it's going to die, but there you can see at the top on the right I have this little mock-up panel attached to the support piece that I'm going to screw to the transom. Over here I've got another piece of plywood just clamped on. That's just a spacer. And then down here I had the panel just clamped in. And we'll come around the back side and I'll try to show you what's going on back here. Not much different to show. Maybe we gotta brighten her up a little bit, and so you can see where things kind of line up. So now I just have to draw a line along this back side of the piece I'm going to attach to the transom, just so I know where to line it up when I actually screw it in. Okay guys, sorry about this. I have to do update mode, but so what I did, you can see it here, it's all screwed on. 3 screws. So there's one of them down, and now I'm going to move over and get that one in. Fiberglass the back side of both of these panels here, and I'm just going to do one at a time. It's difficult to try to do 2 at once. And I'm realizing as I'm kind of messing with these that these are the last large pieces that I'm going to be fiberglassing with this type of Dynel fiberglass on the boat. Of course I have to do this back side, and then I'll have to do the other side when I'm a little further along with these. But that'll be it. So that's a good milestone to reach on this boat, actually, for me, because to tell you the truth, the fiberglassing is getting old, as well as the painting and the varnishing and all that kind of stuff that I've been doing for the last 10 years. And it'll be good to move on to other things. Now, like I said, that's the last of this kind of fiberglass, but I'm going to do the whole cockpit area around the engine and all in there with more traditional kind of fiberglass 1708. There's some light at the end of the tunnel in the fiberglassing phase of this boat, and I'm really happy about that. Okay, so these have been drying for a couple days after I fiberglassed the back sides and put a couple extra coats of epoxy on there to have something to sand smooth. Now the next step, as always, is to scrub these down with Scotch-Brite pad and some water to get rid of the blush that's formed on here. And then I'm going to sand them with my random orbit sander and some 80 grit paper. So I'm not going to film any of that. I'm just going to put some tunes on and kind of do it, and then I'll show you the final result. Once it's all done, hopefully the weather gets nice here in a couple days, and we can bring these over to the boat and fit them in. So that'll be good. So I'm going to get going with this, and I'll show you when I'm done with it. After I sanded these down with my dual action sander and 80 grit paper, I just went around the edges and put 2 coats of epoxy around the edges, as you can see. And now I'm going to sand it off. I let it dry for a day and a half, almost 2 days. And now I'm just going to go around there with my sanding block there and just hand sand all this down, and it should be ready to bring over to the boat and fit in there one more time. I think when I finish sanding these, I'm also going to go over it with a little fairing compound. There's a few little pits that I can see, pinholes. Most of them you don't see until you prime it. So anything that's really obvious, which there isn't much, I'm just going to ferret it out now and sand it down and it'll be done. So that's where we're at. More sanding. Okay, so there's the port side panel laid in there. Fits pretty good. I want to narrow the gap a little bit on the end, so I'm probably going to just add a little fiberglass on the front side over here later on, just to close it up a little. Probably like 2 layers just on the edge should do it. But starboard side fits a lot better. I don't even have to do it at all. But down at the base, you can see I have these clips. So I'm going to attach to the back side. They're kind of like L-shaped pieces. I'll show one of them. And I'll show myself attaching these things on here. But I just have them laid out there. They range between 9 and 13 inches. There's about a foot between them. And yeah, I have to, basically, I put some tape on the epay curb. I'm going to transfer that to the panel, take the panel off, transfer it to the back, measure the curb, and put these things a little bit, just mark where the curb is, where each of these goes, and just making them a little bit higher, just so they're not hitting the curb. Maybe a 1/8 of an inch or so, maybe not even. And I'll screw them on. So I'm going to use this square to transfer the curb height to the back of the panel. Got a heater running here, so it's a little noisy. Okay, so I just put the panel in on the other side. It went right in. Didn't film it because I just wanted to see how it fit. So I'm going to film putting this one in. It's the first time I fit it since I put these clips on here, so we'll see how it goes. Here we go. Awesome. Fit right in there. This panel in particular, I cut it a little short when I was fitting it, and so I'm going to have to build up. I'll probably build up the gap on this end a little bit. Probably only need to add a couple thin layers of fiberglass tape or something like that. Yeah, now I can bring these home and actually get them fiberglassed. So this is the starboard side one, and this is the one that the gap is good on. I like that gap. That's fine. And I'll try to show you up underneath it. Just sliding along the floor here, but you get the idea, I think. I'll brighten it up a little bit here and see if that helps. So you can see there's the gap I'm looking for all the way down. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that, and you come back and check out the next one, where we'll be finishing these things up, and not totally finishing them up, but finishing them up enough to move on to something else. So hope you can join us for it, and until then, have a good one, and we'll see you really soon, right here on Renovation Sportfish.